everybody, and welcome back to another episode of First and Last. My name is Josh, and with me this week I've got Joe.
Hey, man.
And Jimmy.
What's up?
You guys can't tell. I'm pointing at you in the Zoom chat, which probably doesn't.
Oh. You're not pointing at me at all, by the way.
Yeah, I have us in a column, like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, this doesn't do anybody any good since we don't do any form of video podcast. But this is First and Last. Welcome, listeners. Right off the bat, Joe, what is this podcast for anybody that stumbled upon us this week?
It's a TV pod, but like a different TV pod. We're not like
it's not like your mom's TV pod.
Yeah, your mama's TV pod. We take a TV show.
It'd probably be nice and thoughtful.
Yeah, that's not this. That's not what this is.
Zero thought. Because we just take a TV show that we typically haven't seen and only watch the first and the last episode and make predictions and laugh about it with no thoughts.
Correct. I'm taking the TV show that we've probably not seen and not doing that part today. I'm picking a TV show that we've all definitely seen.
Oh, twist.
I don't know if everyone's seen all of it, but I bet it's one of those shows that people are like, "Oh yeah, I know that episode."
Frasier?
You don't know me.
Yeah, we're doing Frasier again, Jimmy.
Starting from the top.
We're just starting from the top. We did 141. Let's start from the top.
There's a movie pod I listened to. Their very first episode was Avatar, and then recently for like their 10th anniversary, they did Avatar again.
Okay.
Did they remember?
So we gotta So we gotta wait a couple more years before we can do Frasier again. Is what you're saying?
Dang.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, okay. Well, we're not gonna do Avatar.
Okay.
Sorry, if that's the one you wanted to do. We're actually
Airbender?
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do one of the most popular TV shows, I think, of all time. One that I think maybe we're afraid of. One that we need to look straight into the face and say, we're gonna watch you, show. And also because I wanted to watch some of it the other day, and I was like, well, why don't I just watch it with you guys? That show.
Simpsons is still going. You know that, right?
Yeah, it's not. I'm not afraid of no Simpsons.
Afraid of this show? We'll see.
I don't know if we're. Well, it's just like one of those like. It's. I think we all think it's a good show. Well, you can prove me if I'm wrong. Seinfeld. We're gonna do Seinfeld.
Yeah. I was gonna guess that or Friends.
Yeah. That would be a good one. I don't know if I think Friends is good though. I'll be honest.
Okay, fair. When you said that you wanted to watch it, I was like, it's Seinfeld.
Yeah, I don't ever have a want to watch Friends. If I walked into the room and Friends is on, I probably would sit there and watch it, but I don't think I'll ever turn on Friends by myself.
Yeah, I watched Friends all the way through, maybe about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm good. I'm good with that.
I think for me, Friends is good, not great.
It does. The jokes do not hold up, but maybe. Hopefully Seinfeld doesn't have the same 90s issues with.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of problematic things within Seinfeld. I'm positive about that. I don't know if we'll see that in these 2 episodes that we're going to watch, but they're there. That's for sure. Before we get into it, Seinfeld was 9 seasons long and went for 180 episodes. It looks like it started in... when did it start? 1989 to 1998 was its original release. So it's an 80s TV show.
Wow.
Just kidding.
Sure.
But... And then it's funny because it's related shows. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Jimmy, you'll be mad to know is I've basically seen no Curb Your Enthusiasm ever.
Yeah, that is a shame. I think we could do that one because it's one of those shows that started up again that I think the original run counts. Or like I think there's been seasons after the fact.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know.
Pull that one out.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that. How does everyone? What's everyone's initial reactions to Seinfeld, or what your thoughts and feelings about it over the years?
I've seen it. I'm maybe the least familiar with Seinfeld, I would guess. In that I've seen it, but was never like a regular watcher of Seinfeld. I think Jerry Seinfeld is funny. I just recently watched his new Netflix special.
Ooh.
Okay.
How was that?
It was fine. It just it didn't really feel like a big deal, or like that he had some like jokes he was like waiting to get out there. It just felt like a night of Jerry Seinfeld telling jokes.
I'd like to listen to that and see how like relatable today Jerry Seinfeld tries to be.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's like if you're just mega rich and famous for such a long time, you know, there's got to be a point where it's just like, even if you're the nicest guy and a good, like, in general or whatever, you've got to just be like, I just don't understand you normal peons. I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How many cars do you have, guy?
Technically own 0, but
Wow.
I a polite company named Honda lets me borrow one every once in a while and drive it around. For a
thank
nominal
you for this
fee.
week's sponsor, Honda. Josh's Travels,
Yep,
not our
that's right.
podcast. I think Seinfeld should stick to doing comedy in low lit nightclubs in like 3-minute bits, like he does in the show Seinfeld, because anything outside of that, it's just not true. You know.
Not true.
It's just not. It's not the Seinfeld that we know and love.
I mean, I feel like Seinfeld was a big show that kind of got it's what like the comedian's dream in a way was, and he kind of like was the front runner of that in a way, being like, I was a comedian, everyone loves me. I was maybe on some other show or something, but now I have my own show named after me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and it's pretty much just my comedy, but just in show form.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a story today. There's an episode. There's an episode of Seinfeld where George just quits his job one day, and he's like, I quit, and he makes a big scene and he walks out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh shoot, what am I gonna do? And he comes back the next day and pretends like he didn't quit his job and everything's just totally normal. Apparently, like Larry David, like actually did that on SNL.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like that story is just like straight out of like Larry David's like actual life. He did that when he was a writer on SNL, and then freaked out and just came back the next day. I've heard that story somewhere. Is it true? Debatable.
So.
But I really want it to be true.
In his mind, it's true.
Right? It's interesting because it's like Seinfeld, obviously. Jason Alexander plays George. Julia Louis-Dreyfus of VP fame, or Veep fame, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you know her from. And then Michael Richards, who is amazing as Kramer, but also has had some interesting things he said in his past.
Some public affairs, public relations problems.
Did he ever have like another show or something?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't really think so either.
Maybe a cameo here and there, but he was trying to do a stand up, and he
apparently
being
it says
heckled.
according to IMDb or Wikipedia, after Seinfeld, he started his own sitcom, The Michael Richards Show, which lasted less than one full season.
Yeah, because he
So.
was kind of a breakout star in Seinfeld, so you would think that they would try to build another show and have it just be like Kramer centric.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like what they did with Frasier.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this show in general, it was just very well cast. Great chemistry. I would have watched any of those shows. Well, I would have watched the George Costanza show. And the Kramer show for sure.
Yeah, I think the Elaine show
Maybe the
would
Elaine
would
show?
definitely
I don't know.
the Elaine show might need some very good supporting actors. Elaine's a good character, but I don't know if she's a show running character, show keeping that show on her back. Well, Joe, you're kind of the weak link, I guess, in this. What happens in this first episode?
So I guess like I kind of guess that nothing like it's often described as the show about nothing, right? Which I think
Yep.
is a play off of when they were actually like writing a show on the show, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But like it's a show about nothing in that there isn't a big overarching story or like arc. It's just 4 people living in New York and just dealing with like everyday bullshit.
Right.
So yeah, I would guess that nothing in particular is happening in this first episode. Like it's just we're introduced to the 4 characters. They all have jobs, and we get some sort of weird adventure where they're trying to like buy a mattress or something. And Jerry's like, "What's the deal with mattresses?"
That's his thing.
Yeah, there's just gonna be a thing.
Dead on. I actually have no idea. I know I've seen this pilot, I'm sure 100 times, but I could not differentiate it from most other episodes. There's like a few, like Seinfeld's great. I started to try to watch it a few years ago, and I don't think I made it through the first season because I think there are a bunch of episodes that are just amazing, and then kind of a lot of, like, I mean, they're good. They're Seinfeld. They got all the formula there, but there's for some reason not the standout like Soup Nazi, or I was trying to explain the muffin top episode a while ago. Does anyone know what I'm talking about when I say that?
I do.
Okay.
Joe,
Like where they only like to eat the tops of muffins.
Elaine
like that.
convinces like a bakery someone to open a bakery and to sell muffin tops.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they just toss the stumps, and it's a whole thing, and then it does not go well.
They try to donate the stumps to like a food shelf or something like that,
Yeah, they get
so they
really
don't
offended.
waste it, and then the food shelf gets offended because like, where are all the tops? It's like, we're donating you food, take it.
I'd mess with a muffin right now.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I think we see. Oh God, I'm like, do we not see Elaine? I'm gonna go with you. Don't see Elaine in this episode. Maybe Kramer. I don't know.
I've tried to do that in the past, and it's always bitten me.
I'm gonna go no Elaine. That's my thought. I think maybe she's mentioned, but maybe she's just not like standing in the room, kind of thing. But no physical Elaine in this episode.
Okay.
I mean, should we just watch it and go from there? This is going to be a tough one. This is a beloved show by a lot of people, so we got to try to do it justice. But also, we might have to break into your mom's first and last TV podcast to be thoughtful and good about this one.
Make moms proud.
Got to make moms proud today. Watching Seinfeld. Nothing problematic about that. All right. So we're going to do that. We're going to jump into the episode, the first one of Seinfeld. It's probably just called Pilot. I'm not even going to look it up because it's going to let me down. We will see you after that. And we're back. We're done with the first episode of Seinfeld, probably called Pilot. Do you know that, Jimmy? What was it called?
Okay, so I know some things.
Okay.
And here's what I know.
Lay it on us.
Right?
Silence.
Wait. Okay, hold on.
Did you forget everything you learned?
The pilot is the two... Oh, okay, I see what it was doing. It said not to be confused with The Pilot, which is also there is an episode of the Seinfeld called The Pilot, but it's about the show within the show Seinfeld. So I got confused by that for a second. So what I know is that this was pitched to NBC, and the show was called The Seinfeld Chronicles. And
like the show was going to be called The Seinfeld Chronicles?
Yep, that's what Jerry Seinfeld and David pitched. Larry David, not David first name.
David Spade.
That was holding me up so bad. Okay, so they pitched it, and the test audience hated it. So they were like, we'll run it anyway. And it like did okay, but it there was like another show actually got like picked up instead, and lasted one season, and people were upset that this didn't get picked up, so they finally, like a year later, so this episode aired in July of '89. The rest of it didn't start until a year and a half later or something.
Okay, yeah, so July of 89, and then the next episode is May 31st of 1990.
Yeah, and they ordered a 4-episode season, including this is 5. And it's the shortest ever ordered in history in TV.
Wow, okay, yeah, I can see on Wikipedia that it's only a 5-episode first season. I was always wondering why it was so short, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty weird. Anyway, so the write-up is just Jerry and George argue whether an overnight visitor Jerry is expecting is coming with romantic intentions. And George says no.
Okay. I mean, yeah,
and he is correct. The end.
Right. It's interesting. It opens up in a diner, which is not the classic Seinfeld diner that everybody knows and loves. It's just a completely different like place where they're very like, it's like they're Cheers, but a diner. Is that what it's called?
Yep. That's what I broke down on my sheet.
And it's just like, what, 5 minutes of them just having a quote unquote maybe regular conversation you'd have at a diner.
They start off talking about what's his name?
George?
Jason Alexander. George.
Yeah.
They start out talking about George's shirt and about how like the second button is too high.
Oh, yeah.
Did you feel it was too high, Joe?
Maybe, yeah.
You know what? Actually,
Truth
I think
comes
Jerry
out.
Jerry was onto something.
Honestly, yeah. I like a good. Sometimes the second button's too low though, and the top button is too high, and there's no good in between. You're showing too much.
Yeah, so they kind of have like this meandering discussion about shirts and then plans, and then it starts to talk about how Jerry's got this lady visitor, and is it romantic or not, based on the signals and the stuff from the phone call. Because she was gonna be in town for business, and then that's why she wanted to visit Jerry. But George is making a big deal about how she said she had to be in town for business, but maybe she would see him. And that's an indication of she's not really interested.
Yep. And Claire, the waitress, agreed. Mm-hmm. So I guess we probably don't ever see Claire again, huh? Because they don't go to Pete's again.
Yeah, they don't go. They might go back to Pete's at some point. They have to go. They go away to a different like diner for like one episode or so. It's quite possible that
like
maybe
they're
they
not
go back to
allowed
that.
at their regular diner, or what?
Yeah, they have to. They change diners for some reason, but they don't like it, and then they go back to their home diner, hometown diner. Yeah, I mean, it was good. It's very it's one of those pilots, I guess, or just episodes where it's like we're just gonna get dropped right in the middle of their lives, and there's no new anything really. This is just another day in Jerry Seinfeld's life. having breakfast or whatever with his friend, arguing about something, having their conversation and going on about it.
The whole show is pretty much in like about 4 scenes. There's the scene with George and Jerry at the diner talking about the situation, and then they move to the laundromat where they continue to talk about it. And then you're back at Jerry's apartment, I think, and you meet Kramer.
Yep.
Who's just like a very overly friendly neighbor. Like he just comes over and he's like, "Can I have some meat?" He brings over some slices of bread.
Just 2 pieces of bread.
Yeah.
Also, with that,
That's good.
Jerry
Classic.
taped like the Mets game and wanted to watch it so we could watch it again, and like taping or not watching sports live seems so foreign to me. It seems like such a dad thing to do.
I've definitely, I mean, you go back and you watch highlights now, you know? That wasn't really an option then.
Yeah, I suppose. It's just like, I guess if I like miss a football game, I'm just like, who won? You know, and it's like, I'm not going to sit for 3 hours and like watch a whole game that night later or something like that to do it.
I can't wait to be old and do that.
Yeah, I'm you know, and it's just, I think it's just like not part of my lifestyle or like ours really.
Yeah,
but
I think I've done it like a time or two.
Yeah, it's not common for us.
Depends
but
on the game.
I think very common for some people. I mean, there's people that, because of like quarantine and there's no sports, have like they watch watch old sports because they like can't, you know.
Yeah, the ESPN's
it's no different
been
than
showing. Yeah, by the way, listeners, Mets are a baseball team. If you remember baseball back when sports happened, it's been a while.
Do you remember sports, listeners? Don't worry, I'm sure they're coming back soon.
But yeah, so it's George and Jerry at the diner, George and Jerry at the laundromat, again talking about the same thing. Then Jerry and Kramer talking kind of about the same situation and also some Kramer stuff. And then we get like a scene where it's all 3 of them together at Jerry's apartment, and Jerry's like cleaning up and they're saying that like you shouldn't clean up. And then we finally get the scene with the woman.
Filth is good, is what George said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, then it all kind of wraps up with the scene with the woman. But yeah, it's all just kind of, and I guess, you know, this is how you would describe a lot of sitcoms, is that it's just scenes of conversations, but I've never seen it as like distilled as this, where it's literally just every scene is just a couple people talking. Like there isn't a plot device that like moves anything forward. It's just some people talking, and then finally there is plot at the end when we find out the woman's intentions, but like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, also if you
It's
take
just
it against
sprinkled.
like last week we watched Full House, and you take it with that where like in a scene of the whole family like talking or whatever, like there's usually like a lot of action going on.
Yeah.
You know, they're like dancing around, singing,
Yeah.
like throwing Michelle into like a
All sorts of
bathtub or a
side plots.
basin
Yeah.
and doing all kinds of wacky, zany stuff where like this is the opposite approach where it's like, no, we're just going to make you sit here and listen to these people have conversations.
Yeah, they're
that
having
are,
conversations about hypothetical things that aren't even happening in the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of what they talked about in this whole episode basically didn't happen, or it was like wishful thinking.
It's
Planning
just
for
leading
wishful
up
thinking.
to
Yeah.
the final payoff.
And that was like part of the criticism from that focus group, is they were saying like nobody wants to watch a show where 2 guys go to the laundromat.
How wrong were they?
I mean, do you want to watch that, Joe? Like, based on, I mean, I kind of feel, based on this episode, this is a pretty good, like, example of what this show is. Like, knowing this show pretty thoroughly. Like, this show is them chatting about stuff, and sometimes plot happens, you know?
Yeah. I think like I am very interested, and I don't know if that's, I'm trying to think if am I in a different time space. I mean, obviously a different time space than like 1990, but like, is it because I watch TV differently now? Where like, I look at this and I go, if it's gonna be 23 minutes of essentially just like banter and stand up, but done between 2 or 3 characters at a time, like that sounds like a great easy watch. Like there's gonna be jokes, and like I don't need to pay attention to plot. I could just like, just pay attention to like little moments and little things that they're saying, and then they move on to the next scene. I'm like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of like what maybe 30 somethings in 1990 thought of this show. 1991, when it finally had a second season that was more than 4 episodes long. Like if they were like, I mean, obviously the show went for 9 years and it's a show that a lot of people like, but we were much younger, so it wasn't for us, but growing up then, having like known that people loved it, have gone back and it's one of those shows that it was like, oh, I could have easily missed this show, but I love it. And I'm wondering if like a younger generation, people that are like college now or high school, if they watch this show, if they would really like it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dated. I mean, a lot of things, there's a thing about this is a lot of things in the show wouldn't have happened today. There's a whole episode where they're lost in like they're trying to find each other in a parking garage. That's one whole episode,
Oh, that's a great one.
Like that's one text and phone call from your cell
And
phone.
that's like a real thing that a majority of people, I feel like, have experienced. We are lost. Where did we park?
So I'm wondering if this show maybe is a problem for maybe younger generations. Like where like the cusp of like we understood what it was. At least when we were younger, we didn't have cell phones and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Like
What
I
was
didn't get
the
a cell
show
phone.
we watched recently that had the payphone?
Oh, Taxi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just different. I feel like what your typical approach to making a sitcom, especially based off of someone's stand-up comedy, would be you take a bit and then you like manufacture plot and visual action around that bit of comedy. Like they had a bit in this episode of Seinfeld about Jerry was saying that you can't, like when they're at the laundromat, he was saying like you can't over dry laundry. It's either dry, and then once it's dry, it's dry. It doesn't get more dry. And that was just like a conversation that him and George were having. But if this was a typical sitcom, you would have seen like actual like over dried laundry. Like Jerry would have like shrunk in a sweater or something when he thought that you couldn't.
He would have pulled out a tiny sweater later on or something.
Yeah, they would have acted out the situation rather than just talking about it, which I think is interesting. There's part of me that thinks that might, like something like that might appeal to a younger audience or a more modern audience, just because like if they're trying to multitask and do 2 things at once, like play a video game but also just like listen to the background banter of a Seinfeld, like that's something that would work because you don't need to see the action going on. You just need to hear them like talk.
You could probably treat a lot of Seinfeld episodes like a 22-minute podcast, in a way.
Yeah.
I don't think it works for Kramer though. Kramer is
True.
He's like 90% physical comedy. He's like just like slapstick,
Right.
which is the part of the genius of him.
Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of that this episode. I mean, we did get his like, you got meat with the bread. Like that joke doesn't land, I guess, if you're not looking at the as well.
Because he pulls it out of his robe pockets.
Yeah.
Each
He's got
individual
bread in his
robe
pockets.
pocket.
That's where you keep the bread, man.
Costanza to a lesser degree, he's got some good physical comedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we did not see Elaine. I was right.
Yeah. No Elaine.
I was actually pretty surprised about that. I thought that was going to be completely wrong, but it's probably been 5 years or so since I've watched. I watched all of Seinfeld at some point a couple years ago. So spoiler alert, I know what happens in the end. I feel like,
Joe, do you know what happens?
before we get into predictions, do you know what happens in the end, or like you've heard about it? The infamous last episode.
I
of
remember
Seinfeld?
seeing the last episode. I remember that they get in trouble for something, and then everyone that comes to their trial is people from previous episodes that like they essentially just testify to how terrible they are.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like Seinfeld. Joe, you spoke on this not too long ago, a couple
In your
weeks
TED
ago,
Talk
maybe.
about Seinfeld.
Your TED Talk, yeah. But like Seinfeld, slowly, I think one thing they did is over the year, I think they became worse and worse people. You know, like they became bad people. And we were watching a show where you were like, oh, it's nice that we're not watching sitcoms or whatever where just awful people exist, like Always Sunny and stuff like that. I can't remember what show we were watching.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But I thought you brought that up. So find that, listeners. Joe's TED Talk on how not all sitcoms have to be awful people.
Was it Bernie Mac? Isn't Bernie Mac just also this? It's just a show where he plays a fictional version of himself as also a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of in that vein.
But
Okay.
with a bunch of fourth wall breaking and a lot of weird things happening in that Bernie Mac show.
I bet Jerry breaks his fourth wall at some point.
Yeah, but that's a good comparison. Like, if the Bernie Mac show were more like Seinfeld, it would just be Bernie Mac talking to another adult about kids and how weird it is to raise kids.
Yeah.
And not
Right,
actually
there
seeing him raise kids.
Yeah, there would be very little actual kids in the show at all. It'd just be like, man, George is in the Bernie Mac show now.
Yeah, he's also there. They're just at a diner.
And he's like, what do I do with my kids? And George is like, let me tell you what you do with your kids. And then, but George doesn't have kids and doesn't know anything about kids and just gives them advice that's bad. I'd watch that show. That's a good Bernie Mac show.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, yeah, Jimmy. We didn't hear too much of what you thought about the pilot of Seinfeld. What are your thoughts? Do you think it does this show justice?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think
You're
it
just
does.
just missing that Elaine factor.
Yeah, you're missing Elaine, and that's a big part of a big cog in the machine. But I love how it really is just banter that's only slightly more ridiculous than real life banter. You know, it's just a step beyond. But it's very relatable. Yeah, Jerry's just kind of Jerry. Everyone's kind of orbiting around him, but he's almost like the least interesting person on the show.
I mean, he's like he's like a comedian,
design?
but he's kind of a very like cheesy figure, you know?
Yeah, he takes
would-
pot shots at himself, and
Yeah, he would have fit in really well. Almost like this character of him would have fit really well if he was like Tim the Toolman Taylor. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just being like a cheesy kind of dad. Like he could have done that in a way. But and everyone else isn't cheesy like that, which is I think it's great. Now I want to see Jerry Seinfeld in Home Improvement.
I'd watch that. I'd watch that episode.
Should we get into predictions then?
Ooh, what do you got?
Well, okay, so I basically know what happens, and I think we all kind of know what happens in this last episode. But so I kind of just made 4 predictions for all 4 of the main characters on something I think they might do during this episode.
Yeah.
In hopes that they do all 4 of these things. Based on what I know about them. I think number 1, I think Elaine hits someone like a little too hard. She's throughout the series she has kind of she pushes people sometimes and it's just a little too hard, you know.
That's why she's on trial.
And no, yeah.
Assault.
I think George wears a fedora, which is a shame. I think Jerry kisses a lady.
Okay.
Any lady.
I mean, it can be any lady. My thought about this is it's the last episode. I bet Jerry potentially has like a lady caller in the morning or something. Inexplicably, Jerry Seinfeld in the show has like a million different girlfriends over 180 episodes. So I feel like maybe he has one right at the beginning of this episode. And they smooch. And then number 4, I think Kramer eats some fruit. Kramer really likes fruit, so I think he eats said fruit. And those are my 4.
Did not know that. About Kramer
Who's
fruit.
next?
I can go. Okay, so we saw like a good amount of Seinfeld's like comedy show bits in this. There was like at least 4. I wasn't keeping tally, but after 3, I wished I had been keeping tally.
There was at least a beginning, middle, and an end part.
I think there was even more than that.
You're
So I think, and even though this is the last episode and they could have gotten away from that, I think we still get at least 3 comedies.
Okay.
Bits. Then I think Kramer eats a sandwich, and that's like the bookend for Kramer in this last episode.
A lot of Kramer eating stuff predictions going on. I'm into it.
There's a bookend about him and sandwich, maybe about sandwich meat. I'm not sure. Then I also have George wears a hat, but I think he's gonna wear like his little golfer for like half of this episode. He had this like bowling shirt and a golfer hat, old man golfer hat on. So we'll see what era hat George is wearing. Then I think Jerry and Elaine have a little will they won't they.
All right.
Because she's
getting back together in the last episode.
Yeah, they introduce her in this as she's the ex, Jerry's ex. And then I don't think anything ever happens with that again. Maybe on accident once. I feel like I remember that. But
they sleep together to save the friendship at one point.
Yeah, like you do.
But that's like
totally reasonable.
Yeah. People in this world have slept together to save their relationship based on what they saw on Seinfeld. Someone's tried to convince somebody else that they need to sleep together to save their relationship because they did it on Seinfeld.
Sure.
What do you got, Joe?
In this, in the pilot, there was a landline phone call where Jerry's friend Laura had someone call her, but like at Jerry's place.
Yeah.
I predict we'll see something similarly anachronistic, but not a landline, but a payphone.
Oh.
So I think someone will use a payphone. I think that somebody is wearing a disguise, which I would define as a costume that's intended to conceal your identity.
Okay.
So if someone's trying to do that, that's a disguise. This is 1998, where the show is ending, and also that was the end of the 90s Bulls franchise, so I think there's a reference to the Chicago Bulls.
Nice.
Do you know they're in New York, right, Joe?
Yeah. But like, maybe they're just like, hey, Michael Jordan.
Hey,
like
Scottie Pippen.
Like everything must come to an end. Seinfeld.
What is the
and
deal
Bulls.
with Dennis Rodman?
Hey, Dennis Rodman's over there.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, and along those lines, I think that someone has a big old slice of New York pizza.
Ooh.
I hope so. Is it Kramer? Do you think it's Kramer?
It's all 4 of them sharing a
Fruit
giant
pizza.
slice.
Really, all we want to know is what does Kramer eat in this episode? That's all we're here for. Maybe it's nothing. Okay, so we are watching. I think it's just called the finale.
Cool.
All right.
It's
take
just
it.
called the finale.
Do you think there's going to
So,
be clips?
let's- No, I don't, because there was a show before it literally called, one was called The Chronicle and one was called The Clip Show, and then the next one's called The Finale. So they had it.
Be self-aware. I like that.
This was in the time when they had like shows hit 100 episodes, and then in that like episode that was just a clip show. You know, it's weird. That's
how you celebrate.
Happened.
Take the day off.
Yeah. Like they were like, hey, no one has to work this week except for the editors. You guys got to edit in the whole clip show. Even The Office did that. A clip show.
Yeah, they did a clip show.
Huh.
I mean, that's a bummer for them.
Weird.
You know, don't do it. No more clip shows. Ever. All right, well, let's watch the finale of Seinfeld. We'll see how it works. We'll see if it's as annoying or hated as some people seem to think it is. This is definitely not the most beloved Seinfeld episode there is, for sure. So this will be fun to see. But we will see you after that. And we are back. We are done with the finale of Seinfeld. It was directed or written by Larry David, by the way, and it was called The Finale.
Yeah.
Fittingly.
Classic.
Jimmy, do you have a write-up or of some sort for this?
Sure.
This good ep.
Gary KMCD says that the plot of the finale is 5 years after Jerry and George made their original pitch. Jerry gets a call from NBC saying they want to go ahead with the original proposal. As a perk, they offer him the company jet to take him anywhere he likes, and he, Elaine, George, and Kramer are soon winging their way to Paris. They don't get very far when the plane has to make an emergency landing thanks to Kramer's waterlogged ear, and soon they find themselves with a few hours to kill in a small town. They see a man being carjacked, and they make fun of it, and Kramer videotapes it, but they are soon arrested under a new Good Samaritan law for failing to help him. And then about 1,000 character witnesses come in from all throughout the seasons, just a cameo. And tell the jury what horrible people they are.
Correct. That is exactly what happened. Yeah, like, just I'm wondering if I want to look at IMDb or not IMDb, Wikipedia. I'm wondering if they were just like, oh, we're done with the show now, because it seems like they kind of knew the end was nigh in the last 4 episodes of this show.
I mean, they probably knew the whole season, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure they did. I don't think Seinfeld gets canceled, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure NBC would have loved to have them for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose. During its 9-year run, 180 episodes, Seinfeld was produced. The count includes both halves. The finale, the finale had 2 retrospective episodes, each split into 2 parts, which was called like the Clip Show and the Chronicle, I think. And
the Chronicle is the name of the clip show.
Oh, okay. So the Clip Show and the Chronicle are the same thing. But that was like an hour-long thing. And then there was an hour-long finale at the end as well.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes more sense. Because the first half of this, the second half of this is really like the trial.
Yep. Yeah, so it's... Yeah, Jerry gets picked up, and they're gonna. That's kind of like we're gonna move to California. So that's a pretty solid. That's a pretty like normal end type thing for a show. Is like half of the cast is moving somewhere, so the show obviously has to end because we're not all in the same spot. So that's the end. But before we all leave, let's take a big trip. But they get a free ride basically somewhere on the NBC company private jet, which is pretty cool. That made me think. I was wondering. I was like, where would I go if someone was like, you have a private jet that'll bring you in somewhere and take you home? Where would you go?
Yeah.
Did you guys think about that at all?
Like a White Castle or like
Taking the private jet to the White Castle? Well, I was kind of thinking. I was like, well,
it is driving it down the street.
this is like first class times 1,000, right?
Uh-huh.
Like having a private jet. So you'd want to go somewhere far away.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
Almost, it'd be the opposite of what you'd almost want to do any other time you air travel. Is you'd want to elongate your air travel. Almost like, no, I want to enjoy this crazy. I was like, so Australia? Is Australia the farthest place to go from like America?
Yeah,
basically?
somewhere in Asia. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, let's go there because it's going to take forever. And
Yeah.
then we can just drink like champagne on the private jet.
You get like 3 full-on meals.
Yeah. So I would say I would go to either, if someone gave me a private jet for one vacation, I'd either go to Japan or Australia.
Yeah. Or just around the world and back.
Yeah, why not just keep going at that point?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm in Minnesota right now. I'd like to go to LA, but around the world to get to LA, and then all the way back. Again.
Yeah.
Take a lap.
Like if we need to like stop in Japan for gas, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, we can, yeah. We
That
gotta
little
stop.
plane is stopping for gas constantly.
Yeah, stopping for gas. Some good pit stops. Like, yeah, just give me like, let's stop for gas. Give me like 3 hours in each one of these countries that we stop in.
That's all you need.
And then on the way back, make sure you stop at different airports so we can be in different countries as well.
Yeah.
You get a lot of little stamps in your passport.
And then if you could just drop me off at the White Castle directly, that'd be great.
And Joe's dream of taking a private jet to a White Castle will come true.
Just parachute out to a White Castle.
I think that's the thing that I thought of the most during this was like, what would I do? I feel like there was probably some really cool, I mean, if you've watched this entire show over the past 9 years, or if you've binge watched it on Hulu, even more probably. This last episode with a bunch of reoccurring characters that the main cast has wronged, essentially, or just interacted with in a way, was probably kind of fun because you'd be like, haha, I remember the soup Nazi. Haha, I remember Daphne, who's not Daphne from Frasier in this, but she's like one of Jerry's girlfriends, you know? So it was like they did put clips in during the trial, like a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know how I feel about that.
Just like to remind you who this character is.
Yeah. But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't egregious, you know,
Well, because they had already done it
because they did a whole show.
the week before.
Yeah.
So in that context, it's like, really? Come on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wish I would have liked it. No clips, and they just on the stand would have explained like in a funny manner what happened more, you know, without having to lean on the clip, especially since they did a clip show. I don't even know if it was a week before. According to episode on Wikipedia, it was the same night.
What? So it was like 2
It was
full
two
hours?
different. It was 2 full hours.
Oh.
One was the clip show, and one was the finale.
It's just the
So they
Super
were-
Bowl.
It was a Super Bowl of Seinfeld Super Bowl.
Just a big one-night event. That sounds about right. And you kind of figure a lot of people are going to skip the clip show and just go right into the finale.
Yeah, I suppose. You think they...
Yeah, I mean,
They
if you
would
knew,
know.
Yeah. Or like you might just be like casually watching the clip show. Like if you had a bunch of people over to watch the Seinfeld finale, maybe you're watching it but kind of talking over it too, and then once the finale starts, then you're like, all right, everybody shut up.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
shut up,
say,
Josh.
if Lost came on and they were like, the first hour of the 2-hour finale of Lost is going to be a recap of the last whatever seasons, you know, and then the last hour is the actual finale. Like, I wouldn't have turned on that first hour. I would have been like, cool, I guess. You know? I'll wait to be disappointed for the finale for Lost.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be disappointed either way.
Question for you two is, it sounds like, I mean, also because the internet is just a tunnel full of angry voices in general, but it seems like most people seem to be very angry about how this finale kind of turned out. Oh, they went to went to jail because of the Good Samaritan law. That's stupid. How dumb was this to end? Like, do you agree with that? Did you not mind? Do you love it? What did you actually think about how they finale'd this show?
Yeah, I'm very confused about the anger. It just wasn't a very like plot heavy show to start. So like, what kind of finale were you looking for?
Right.
And like you get the four main characters hanging out. You get one little adventure, and it actually does have an ending. They end up in jail, but I don't understand what sucks about that. Like, it was gonna end. Like, did you want there to be a wedding and like a graduation or what?
Yeah, right. It's like it just didn't end where Jerry didn't graduate high school and moved on. Like, you know, like what, he didn't get married, but it was like, it would have been worse if you would have forced like Jerry into like a long-term relationship to get married when his whole character throughout the whole show is just not that kind of person. You know,
he's a douche.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I think that's what's so genius about this finale is like, well, first of all, it must have been in the halfway through when the plane crash was happening, right? You think like, oh shit, like they're going to kill him or something. And then what's going to happen in the second half hour? And then they do set up a little bit like of Jerry and Elaine, and they're going to like they're going to tell each other that they love each other. And then the plane pulls up, and then at the end they go to jail, and like, because they're terrible people essentially. And then what do they do in the cell? They just start like complaining and shit, like go back to the exact same stuff that they were talking about and doing before. They're just still terrible people.
They didn't change. The minute they sat down in jail, they literally just started talking about nothing again.
Just went right back to it. So
well,
I think that's funny.
and that last conversation was their button, George's button being too tall, his second button being too high, which is the first conversation they had in the pilot.
Yeah, call back.
That's fun.
I don't think they needed George like called it out, which like sure in like 98 that probably makes sense, but now that you like can stream the way we do and you can immediately call attention to it, it's kind of like
right.
He didn't need to say like, have we had this conversation before?
Yeah, he didn't need to do it. They could have just done the conversation. It was like fine. I mean, it's fine. It's over 9 years.
I think it was the same exact dialogue, wasn't it, that Jerry said?
I think it probably was.
Pretty much exactly.
Can confirm.
Exact. Yeah. I mean, you didn't need to. I'm obviously all about just doing something and trusting that the audience is smart enough to understand it. You know, but I don't think no harm, no foul. Really,
I think
on that
part of the anger too might have been that, like, in having a trial where you describe how terrible the four main characters actually are, like that, like the viewer might take offense to that. It's just like, hey, I like these guys, and I've been watching this show for 9 years.
Right.
You mean to tell me they're terrible? Wait, personal. Am I terrible too?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that was the point. Is just like, hey, these people have been terrible, and you laughing at the jokes along with us. Like, you're a bad person too.
I mean, you can take it that way if you want. It's one of those things. It's like, it's not wrong, but it's like saying like, oh, you're stealing cars in Grand Theft Auto. Does that make you a bad person? You know, watching bad people do bad things on TV and fake stuff. It doesn't make you bad. It just, makes you be entertained.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you understand that it's fake, then I think it's completely okay.
Yeah,
But
it's fully within the spirit of the show to like laugh at a guy while he's getting like carjacked.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that almost even seems like that one part where they're making fun of like the fat guy getting robbed. I actually thought, I was like, that actually seems a little harsh for them.
Yeah,
like even for them, like
specifically the fat stuff.
They don't specifically like basically stare someone in the face and be like, "Hey, you fucking suck." Like they don't, they don't do that. So that was like a little bit jarring. But like besides that, everything else seemed pretty on par, really, for Seinfeld, and I'm not mad about this last episode by any means.
I have issues just in general with like this Good Samaritan law. I think that like you pick any 4 New Yorkers out of New York, and that's you just keep walking, man. I think that's just what you do.
I think maybe another part of it too is that it was the biggest show of the 90s, and it was ending, and they were having a big finale, and there was nothing that could have lived up to it.
True.
So
I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it lived up to it as much as it could.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's actually funny is, in general, Good Samaritan law is kind of the opposite of what they got arrested for.
Mm-hmm.
In general, Good Samaritan law offers legal protection to people who are trying to give reasonable assistance to those who they think are in peril or might be injured or something. It's a law protecting them from being sued by the other people if like they didn't want to be helped, or like they hurt them.
Ends
I guess
up being more harmful. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you help someone out of like a burning car, and then they're like, my back hurts because you moved me, or something like that. Like the Good Samaritan law in general protects them for that. It's not necessarily it's not a law saying you have to help people. I don't know if is that an actual law anywhere?
I don't know. I'd wondered about that. It feels like it'd be hard to actually enforce.
Right.
I mean, I feel like there's probably some things like, if you're standing on a dock and someone's like drowning, and there's like a buoy next to you that you can like throw in the water and help, and instead you just watch them drown. Like there's probably something messed up about that you can be charged for.
Sure. Yeah.
In a way, but it's like, I mean, this guy was being robbed by somebody. They don't know if that guy has a weapon or something.
Yeah, exactly. What are they supposed to do? Like, I guess yell at him or something, but like...
Yeah, and Kramer was videotaping it. If anything, he helped them with evidence to the carjacker.
That's all 4 of them in today's age would have had their smartphones out filming it anyway. Like, that's what would have happened.
Yeah.
So, we don't... The internet is mad about this show, and I don't think we are.
They don't know funny.
They don't know.
The 1998 internet.
We know funny.
Yeah.
The 1998 internet is just mad about their dial-up. They're just like waiting an hour to get online to be like, Seinfeld sucks.
Get into the Seinfeld chat room.
Seinfeld sucks. Send chain email.
Oh, chain mail. Good times. Well,
it was according to Wikipedia, it received polarized views and was criticized for many for betraying. It was criticized by many for portraying the main characters as people with no respect for society and for mocking the audience who tuned in to watch them every week. So, Joe, that's kind of exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. And so, ultimately, Seinfeld and Larry David's kiss off to their fans was a loud, hearty, "So long, suckers," according others, so. And then it says others valued it for a large number of cameo appearances. So, people were like,
people didn't realize that these people were like terrible, like moralless, like they were like screwing each other over even all the time.
Yeah, there's like a cynicism to the show that's part of what makes the show great, and like that's what they did with the finale.
Right. I mean,
Wow.
hey, I'm into this. I'm into it. I like a show that doesn't end traditionally with the wedding or the graduation or the, blah blah blah. And this show was unique in its way of being about just people sitting around and doing nothing. So in the end, they were just like, "Screw you, we're done." Like you watched all these crappy people do crappy things forever. Like deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Show's over. So.
Did you guys catch the little drop from the reporter saying like, oh, these 4 New Yorkers are in jail for the Good Samaritan law, and like 2 of them were in a relationship, it sounds like, and that it ended badly, and then the other reporter is like, well, maybe they'll go to jail and get married.
Yeah, I caught that part too.
Drop that little like, oh, is that what's going to happen in the finale?
Because they're obviously all 4 going to go to the exact same jail cell and stay together for 1 year. Like,
like you do.
Like how jail works. Okay, well,
It's a small
let's
town. They
let's,
just have the one cell.
Let's go into predictions, shall we?
Sure.
I'll do mine because I think they were very fast and I did terrible. Number 1, Elaine hits someone. I didn't see her push, hit, shove, or do anything bad.
Not even in a clip.
Not even in a clip. George wears a fedora. I saw no hats of any kind on George's head. Jerry kisses a lady. He didn't even get a smooch before jail. Bummer. And Kramer eats some fruit. Kramer did not eat fruit.
He was eating a lot though.
But he was eating.
He was
Kramer
eating a lot?
eats.
KramerEats.net.
Kramer likes to eat.
KramerEats.tumblr. .com. I could do mine pretty quick too. I got no points, but in lieu of that, I have a fun fact. But
Nice.
there was no payphone, no disguise, no Chicago Bulls reference, no New York pizza. But I did want to note that first bit in the first episode of Jerry doing comedy was him talking about like going out and like, this is it, we're all out, and then soon enough, like, we all need to go home, and he's just making a joke about how we always need to go out. That was the first bit in like the new stand-up special that he did like just this year.
Oh, was it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I didn't know when I first watched that special, but now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh, it's from Seinfeld.
Oh, look at that. That little, the more you know, rainbow and stars flying over your head right now, Joe.
So is that worth the point?
No.
Okay, cool.
It's worth
Because
it's,
you watched that?
Because you watched a little bit more TV than we did.
Yeah,
you just get a point.
A little point for effort, a little extra credit.
No, we don't award extra here.
So 0 then.
Yeah.
That is fun, though. I wonder if he works that into bits or works like Seinfeld bits.
Yeah.
Into
Or
his
I wonder if
stuff.
I wonder if people in the audience even knew that was a recycled bit.
I
Yeah.
mean,
That's a
you know,
callback.
who knows? I mean, I assume that his stand-up was his stand-up, and the bits in Seinfeld were some of his stand-up stuff, and then they worked that into what they were going to write for that week, you know?
Because a lot of times they don't even really connect very much.
Yeah, sometimes it's very, very loose, if anything, connection.
Speaking of, so I guessed that there would be 3 little comedy bits. I think there was only 2.
I think there's only a beginning and an end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of like the full hour, so there should have been at least 4. Come on. Then I said Kramer eats a sandwich, and he totally did. I had to pause quick and make sure and go back. But he took a bite of a sandwich at Monk's, which is, the restaurant they ate at for the rest of the series, not Pete's. So there's one, and then I had George wears his like golfer hat from the first episode. He did not, no hats. And then Elaine and Jerry having a will they won't they? Huh?
They didn't. No, they did not.
Jerry and Elaine?
No,
The whole
just
plane
because
thing.
that was
They
not
called
a will
it
they
back
won't
at
they.
they called it back at the end too. Like, oh, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say no. That's what I was gonna say. They did a whole like plane thing because it was supposed to be like, oh, this is gonna be awkward when they survive, and then the news person just said it because they were, yeah.
I would have
Joe. What do you?
I would have given credit for just the plane thing.
You would have given credit for that?
Yeah. For the
I feel
plane
like I
thing
almost.
alone.
All right, I feel like I almost talked myself into it after I said, and then the news person said it. So, fine, I'll accept it.
That's right.
They at least winked at it, and I
Okay.
feel
They
like
did.
that was
All right,
enough.
Yeah,
Which is what a will they? Okay.
Yeah.
So I got
it. Yeah, I'm in.
I got
I'm in.
2.
Okay, I'm in.
I got 2. I was 1 comedy shy of 3, but I'll settle for 2. It's the best I think I've done in whatever season
Yeah,
we're on.
you get
Quarantine
2.
season.
You'll settle for 2, and everyone got 0. So I think you did just fine, Jimmy.
Nice.
I got a spirit point though. I got a trivia point. We should
Joe got
like trivia points. If you have like a fun trivia thing, you get a point.
Okay, so
But it's
Joe
counted
got
separately.
0 plus 1 trivia point.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's like
The
a
first
shroot
and
buck.
last
It's
season.
essentially useless.
No. Yeah, but how many Stanley Nichols is that, Joe? All right, well, that's it. That's Seinfeld. We did it. We've conquered Seinfeld.
That's a Seinfeld.
And what's up with Seinfeld?
Are you gonna
Yeah.
play some slap bass at the end of this episode?
I mean, no.
This finale was definitely much more like stereotypical Seinfeld, like lots of yelling, lots of like repetition of words, like it's effeminate, it's not effeminate, what do you mean effeminate?
Was that the lawyer?
That was them like
No.
yelling on the plane about how
yeah.
George was sitting. Yeah,
Fair enough.
a lot of that stuff.
It was good. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
If you thought it was bad, that's fine with you guys, listeners, or Jimmy.
I liked it. Wait, what? I think it's genius. I think Larry David can do no wrong.
Fair enough. There you heard it first. Jimmy's a Larry David apologizer.
Wait, what?
I don't think he did. I don't know if anyone's mad about him. for
Larry
anything.
David's canceled.
So
Apologizing.
is Jimmy.
He does a great Bernie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've gone long. Let's be done. Thank you everyone for listening. If you want to do show suggestions, you can do that at F&L Podcast on the Twitter and on the Gmail. You want us to watch a show? Let us know. Also, rate us 5 stars or, some other amount of stars if you feel like it. That would be great. It would help us out. We will see you next week on another episode of First and Last. Goodbye.
Does anyone have any Jerry Seinfeld impersonations?